So you just said you were in 10 to 11 states last year? Tell me
Yeah.
about that. What happened?
Yeah, so I when I started working in the mini MFA with you, I was actually like headed into doing Romeo and Juliet at Ohio Shakespeare Festival. So that was state number one, which was super fun. Um, and then I headed into, I was the understudy for Gender Play, which was a one-person show that I had started at Indie Shakes in Indiana and in Indianapolis, which like was the second half of overlap with the mini MFA.
Yes, I remember that.
Um, yeah, and that was really interesting because as we started, the first time we did an understudy run for that, was one of the moments where I was like, oh dang, like this detail stuff really freaking works because we were doing the understudy run and the director like we finished the run and the director was like, "Hey, how old are you?" And I told her and they were like, what did they say? Something along the lines of like so skilled for one so young and then just like walked off.
What a
I was
what
like,
a
okay.
Gandalf thing to say.
And Ohio Shakes was really fun because our Romeo um is also from Houston and was like so he would and we were in the actor house together so I would come out of our coaching zooms and would be like working on whatever the homework I was working on and he'd be like, what'd you cover today?
Ah, flashbacks.
Yes. Yeah, the one that he got because when I was working on the character journal he was like, yeah, I'm not going to say anything until you're done with it. He like refused to give me any spoilers about like what was ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, friend. I appreciate you for not stealing their learning. Um, yeah, I remember Jack threw
Yeah.
those away in front of us. We were all like,
That's what Lloyd said, is he was like, yeah, that
yeah, he was like he collected them and we were like, okay. And you scrambled to get it done, and then he just walked over to the trash and he threw them away. He was like, "What do you remember?" And we were all like, "What?" Okay, so Ohio, and then would you say
Ohio,
Indianapolis?
then Indiana, yeah, then Indianapolis for gender play, which then when I got there found out that I wasn't just understudying it for that one thing, it was actually going on a tour. And so there were a couple stops that was like really, really small team of basically like the producer, the actor, playwright, and like one other person. But at the end of the loop was at Actors Theater of Louisville, and they wanted to reunite the whole team. So I got to go to Actors Theater of Louisville, which was so fun. Very cool. Um, it was so nice to be in like my own little apartment within walking distance of the theater and just be like, I have a 2 minute walk to get to work.
That's awesome.
They were so nice. And that my producer brain kicked in there because we were talking a lot with like the Radical Hospitality team because the show had like more audience engagement and there were like costumes that the audience could wear and stuff. And so there was just more interfacing with their Radical Hospitality team in front of house than like some other shows just because of how many options there were for the audience to
Yeah.
participate. Um, and I was like, this is a really cool like team and what they do and like, coordinating the actor housing and helping with like sensory things for like because there were like a lot of like dance lights and loud music and stuff in the show. So that was really cool. Um, and I got to go see some of Kentucky Shakes, which I love getting to go see their shows while I'm in Louisville. So it was fun to go say hi to some actor friends that I'd met a couple years ago. Um, and then, okay, so that was, huh. Oh, between those two tour stops was state number three, which wasn't for a show, but it was my private training for stage combat teacher training with dueling arts. So I was out in California for a week doing that, and then did Actors Theater of Louisville, and then so that would have been May to June. So then, heh. end of June, I was back at home, and then July, I was in Missouri doing my TA hours for teacher training with dueling arts. So I was one of the TAs for the level one like national workshop, um, which was really fun. We had a mix of teachers and students in the student group. So we had like a dance teacher and like a couple of theater teachers. So like not even all of the educators were coming from necessarily an acting background, which was really, really fun to work with. And also they were also very sweet. And I had some really good conversations with some of the educators about like they were like, no, you give like really helpful notes and you're not you like you pace them out really well. You're never like overwhelming anybody with too much information, which was my first concern. Because I'm like, I know how excited I get about stage combat, and I want to tell you all the things.
Yes. Not
But
doing that as a
yes,
teacher is hard.
yeah, yeah. So it was some really, really helpful feedback about like, no, you have a really good pace. You have a good like. One of them was like, you have like a really steady, like I got you kind of energy, and I was like, I think that's the first time someone has described me as like steady.
No, that's accurate. That's accurate. I got you energy is nice, is accurate. There's a warmth to it. Yeah, it like I imagine that if I'm teaching somebody, I imagine that the foundation they feel like they're standing on is like hard rock and earth.
Yeah,
And it's not going to go
yeah,
anywhere, but it's not exactly soft. I think the
right.
foundation you probably teach with probably feels more like, one of those like big circle wooden chairs that has like the mattress on top of it and it kind of can slide in its pocket.
That sounds so fun.
I think that
I've
that's,
never.
yeah. Yeah, there's a foundation to it, but it's also like we can lay here. Like we feel comfortable resting, if that makes sense. I was just thinking I had a chair like that when I was a kid, but I feel like yeah,
Oh.
there's probably like a foundation and then a mattress on top of it, which I could probably do more of when I teach is have moments of mattressing. Sorry, continue. That's really nice. I think that's cool that they said that.
Yeah, yeah. I was really grateful to have because like the training as an actor teacher or as an actor teacher as an actor combatant. I don't know, um, like most of the actor combatant cohorts that I had been in had been like mostly actor background people like and so it was really fun as a TA and as like a emerging teacher to have like that mix of some people who had education experience and then like people very close to my age or like a little younger who were still like in college or shortly out of um because it was yeah it was a good group as well and the two head instructors were so freaking nice and were like pulling the TAs aside to be like, okay, so like here's how we've planned the lessons and why, and here's how we're adapting the curriculum because of how yesterday went and stuff. And so like they gave us so many resources on like opening up teacher brain for us to see how teacher brain worked for each of them similarly and differently. So that was really cool. Um,
What's the most surprising thing you learned about teacher brain?
Ah, I think for that particular group, I think the thing that surprised me most was that like it was okay to like open that up to the class, especially given the composition that we had of there were so many educators. Um, was there was never like a problem with being like getting a little off track and starting to explain why we were teaching something and then being like, oh wait, hang on, okay, are we all still are we all still on the same page? Yeah, okay, cool. Um, and those two, the Eric and Lauren really modeled like just a really healthy ways of like being okay with kind of going off on the rabbit trail and then like getting back on track and being like, yeah, okay, we're going with the flow here. We don't have to stick like perfectly to our bullet list. Because we never got behind or anything, even with all of the little detours, which is much more how I communicate anyway, as I'm pulling in all of these things based on what I'm seeing in the room and what's reminding me of what. And so it was nice to see that like, yeah, that's a perfectly viable like teaching approach.
Yeah, I get pulled off easily. I sometimes get in trouble. If you know what to say, you'll wreck an hour, and I'll be like, shit. I had things to get done and I didn't get them done. I used to do that in grad school. Sometimes, sometimes when like the class would be like, nobody wants to do their scene today. It's like if we can find the right thing to say to him, he will monologue for a while thinking that we don't understand this thing. And we can burn like an hour and a half of class. 'Cause we're just exhausted.
Yeah, so TA, that was July. And then I got home from that shortly after that. It wasn't that much. I was not at home for very long. And I got a like an SOS call from Ohio Shakes being like they blasted it out to all of their company members of just like, hey, we need a crew person for King Lear in like 2 days. Because like I guess something had happened, somebody had fallen through or something. I don't know the specifics, but they were like, can anybody be here in 2 days? And I like talked to my parents and was like, yeah, I could be there. So I went back to Ohio to do back to outdoor Shakespeare, which was oh so good. So I was on crew, which was fun because I was getting to work with the person who had been my stage manager for R&J at Ohio Shake. So it was fun because it was like getting to meet some new people and like reconnect with some of the R&J folks. Um, and my two big jobs on crew, like aside from like setup and stuff, oh my gosh, we had to they had this giant throne that would get carried in from the back of the house, but then it would get dropped off backstage. So like it was my and Ashley's job to like reset it at the back of the house. This thing was big enough that like the 6 foot guys that had to carry it in, it was pushing the edge of their wingspan to be able to carry it on the like carry bars. And so like you have me and like Ash, who was not much bigger than me, going like stretched as far as we can, trying to hold this thing.
Was it super heavy?
It was, I mean, it was solid wood. And it was taller than me. So like it wasn't light. But like it was more just the angle of like I am at my fingertips edge that was like, whew, my forearms
Yep.
got to work out.
That's awesome. It wasn't light.
But yeah, my two big jobs there were I was on blood work for Edmund when he cuts his arm at the beginning. And so we went through so many different like okay, can we do it out of the original bottle? Okay, no, that didn't work. Okay, now the bottle's empty. So now we have to find a syringe and we went through like so many different like toddler like medicine syringes trying to get something that didn't work because I had like half a second to because Lloyd, who was our Romeo, so I got to see Lloyd again, um, would literally like sprint into he didn't even make it all the way like backstage. He would just sprint off. I would hit his arm as quick as I could, and then he would sprint back on stage. So it was like that was like the highest like moment. Um and then they had actual like water effects. They rigged a sprinkler system for the storm. And so then it was my and the stage manager's job to use an entire Rubbermaid tote of microfiber towels to get all the water off the stage during intermission so they could do the second half of the show without slipping. It looked so neat because like by the time we would hit that point in the show, we were down in like a little lagoon surrounded by some trees. So like even though we're like in the Midwest late summer, so the sun's still out, it was low enough in the sky that like we were pretty much already shadowed by that point and it was like pushing dark. Um so the stage lights would like catch the mist over the top of the stage. It looked so cool. That was so much fun. Those were like the two big things. So I was mostly just like hanging out backstage and like making sure everyone's like, hey, hydrated, everybody has ice towels and stuff, helping Edgar, with armor and stuff. And yeah, that was so fun. I loved that group. It was really good to like get to go back and work with them a second time. Because it was sort of happy surprise of just like, sure, yeah,
Do you know if you're going out there this summer?
I am not because I am going to be out in New Hampshire with advice to the players, playing an ace Romeo.
I bet you're excited.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I've been working with the director Sarah and Lucy out there. They got a last minute like chance to, I guess, put an article about the show in the Shakespeare Theater Association's Quarto magazine. And so we've been working on. This is how much I'm so excited to work with Sarah because she emailed me and was like, absolutely no pressure because this is very last minute. Um, but she was like, I wanted to put something in the blurb about like, hey, like we're specifically looking at like an ace aro interpretation of Romeo, but her words were, um, because I am not experienced with speaking to this identity and it's not one that I hold, I wanted to get your approval on it so that I didn't mess anything up.
Oh. So, for those who might not know, what does that mean?
Yeah, so ace is short for asexual, so anybody who has a different experience to sexual attraction or not any experience, they don't have any sexual attraction. So it can be contextual, it can fluctuate. And then aro, A-R-O, is short for aromantic, which is a similar experience with romantic attraction. So I identify as both asexual and aromantic. Um, and I have been running my mouth on Instagram for pushing years at this point about how many ace and aro resonances I see in Shakespeare characters. Romeo was one of them. And so like actually while I was out at Ohio Shakes for King Lear, I got the email from Sarah and Lucy going, "Hey, we would love to have a conversation with you about what that could look like because I have not seen an ace or aro Romeo, and I'm interested in staging that, and we want you to do it."
What specifically about Romeo makes you go, I would love to do that?
Yeah, the text that Romeo has, and I actually like just recently like went back through and I color code highlighted all of Romeo's lines that stuck out to me as either ace or aro. Um, The a lot of his language is so visual and image based, that it reads very much to me as aesthetic attraction, which is what high school me thought everybody was talking about when they were like, "Oh, so and so's hot." I was like, "Oh, you like the way they look and want to be around that." And like that's
That's where it ends. Yeah.
yeah, it was just like I like being in the presence of how I define beauty, and I want to stick around that. Turns out that's not what people meant. Uh, but I see Romeo in like a very similar situation of like he's trying to use the language that he has to describe the kind of like attraction that he's experiencing, and it's just not quite fitting, which is why he talks for so long. Just like no, it's like but that's not. But it's like this.
What do you think it does to the play?
I think one of the things I've talked with Sarah about is that like I think it allows Romeo to be so awkward. And I think that helps the play be more relatable in that it like de-inevitabilizes like the romance structure of like this is the greatest romance story ever told, and it's like no, it's two teenagers who are trying to figure out how to words and relationships and what does that mean? What are we actually trying to get to? And I'm very excited because I have yet to meet the actor playing Juliet, but from the talks I've had with Sarah, it sounds like we're gonna get to do a really cool exploration of what an ace allo, so allo being the opposite end of the spectrum, so aligning with the norms of sexual attraction or romantic attraction. Um, because it sounds like the Juliet actor is coming not with an ace or aro perspective for Juliet, which is going to be a really cool way to explore what that ace allo relationship can look like. Because there's a lot of there's a lot of people who are in those sort of mixed relationships, and it's something that I've read about from some of the ACE and ARO educators that I follow. So I'm really excited to like see how that works. Like the dance, the initial meeting scene is like one that I'm like particularly interested in figuring out, and just like experimenting with what does it look like if what awkwardness gets highlighted like from the get-go. It's gonna be so much fun. I have so many questions.
That's very exciting.
Yeah,
Uh,
this will be on my first time like actually getting to really dig into like staged intimacy as well, because I have somehow managed to kind of dodge it this far. Even like
are
playing
you slipping it on purpose? That good.
I
Okay.
initially like, especially because like one of the first like in high school, like the first play that I did in high school, I was in the Crucible, and we'll just say that there were no intimacy guardrails for that show at all.
Wait, in high school,
Yeah.
we call that a.
I've seen suns when the heat
Welcome
rise
to
up. I've
Artists
seen
I
guns when they
Admire
heat eyes up.
with Coach
I've
Clark.
seen nuns when they beast rise up. Light snuff, knives rust when they cut through silence. I've seen fun when the weed dries up.
So how is intimacy going to work in this
That's
relationship?
we have at this point, being still like several months out from the show, more questions than anything right now. And I did one of the intimacy directors that I worked with in college on a show connected me with someone who I'm going to be talking with about like I have questions. Just for like me specifically being the ace person in the room, and specifically being someone who like sits way more on the like sex repulsed end of the ace spectrum. With my aromantic identity, it's just more of just a like where I'm like, I'm probably not gonna clock it, but I'm also not like pushed away from it, as opposed to like with my asexual identity, I'm far more on the repulsed end of like, there have been times where like we're watching a movie with friends and I'll full go get a snack. Like I'll leave the room during an intimate scene and come back. Nothing that's plot relevant to me is happening in the next at least 30 seconds. Like, but yeah, I have managed to like, just because I tend to read as more of the chaos goblin type. Um, I was getting stuck into more of like the Mercutios and and things that it was like I had a little more freedom to like, um yeah, I'm like most of the roles that I got in college just like flat didn't have any, if they had any movement requirements, it was probably a fight. Like because my reputation got around very quickly that like I was the fight person. Um and even like as an actor teacher playing Romeo, because of recency to COVID, and because of just like being in different schools every week and changing teaching partners so often, we just did like a placeholder for the Romeo and Juliet kiss. Um just because it was like we're in so many schools, yeah, like so even though I played Romeo for a whole school year, like there was not any staged intimacy in that because of the way that the school tour was functioned. So like
Takes the kids out
this,
anyway.
yeah, yeah,
They
and
immediately
and
stop
it's
watching the play and they're like, they're kissing! Ah!
Yeah, yeah. And so like we had fun playing up the like, okay, this is what this is. So we got to teach them a little bit about like this is like a placeholder that we use in staged intimacy for this.
Oh
We got
yeah.
to like give them a little like this is a stage tool for stage intimacy. Um and and then we just kept moving and we, because we're focused on a different part of the
Yeah.
scene anyway, and so yeah, this will be my first time like actually like doing a role that requires some staged intimacy, but I feel very supported by the team already.
Good.
That they're that like I mean, the director Sarah and I are already talking about like, does it have to be what everybody expects? What can we play with? What can we adjust?
Yeah.
What does um the two moments that are front in my brain are when they meet, because the text is the text.
Sure.
um and I'm like, I think one of the things that I've talked to her about like I want to try is like, okay, obviously the text says, smooth out rough touch with a tender kiss, and there are two mentions of kisses in the
You
actual
kissed by the
text.
book.
Kiss by the book. So it's like, okay, what does that look like? Does Romeo just like panic when he realizes that like, oh, she's and then like just kisses her hand and just like panics? And then the second moment that's like front of our brains is like, what does the it is the lark, the herald of the morn scene look like? Yeah, I don't know. Because we are coming at it with that ace aloe mix of like there's a lot of relationship negotiation that can go into that. And so it's like, okay, what you know, how does that sit in each Romeo and Juliet's bodies of like, did they get what they want? Did they not? Was it awkward? How awkward was it rather than was it awkward? Like
Well, but that, okay, I have a tangent. The relationship you're talking about is so much closer to the play than the 20-year-old romance stories we watch. The whole point is them trying to figure it out together. And I also don't think it's the greatest romance story ever told. I don't think that's the point of the play.
right, it's not.
I think it's a tragedy.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
I think it's much more about the parents than it is the kids.
That's the exciting thing is like the Sarah is like wanting to put like looking at love in the larger context of like not focusing on Romeo and Juliet, but like focusing on like Tybalt's love and the parents and like how the prince's love and how all of these different people are, how their care for one another is pushed and pulled and twisted and pushed to extremes, and and so it's like, okay, great, by allowing Romeo and Juliet to just be awkward teens, like we're able to open and focus on the larger story that's going on rather than just these two characters.
Yeah. And I think You Kissed by the Book is awesome. Meaning, like, the kiss shouldn't be great. You Kissed
Right.
by the Book is that's not getting in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then if Romeo is that makes so much perfect sense, or that makes so much sense because it's like, let me show you how this goes.
Right. Yeah.
When do you go out to do that?
July. Yeah. So
July.
and then yeah, we have 2 weeks of rehearsals and then 2 weeks of shows in August. We close on August 10th.
Congratulations.
I'm so excited.
I bet you are. You have a company, a
Yeah, so
business.
yes, I
Tell
got a
me about it.
grant I got a grant from my state's arts commission to start a production company. So, taking some inspiration from like how National Theater in like Stratford to like put the on-demand recordings of their productions up. So I'm still working like in an area that does not have a lot of professional work, but has a lot of theater students who are very interested in getting some professional credits. So yeah, so I'm working on it's called Roguish Goblin Stories because I was like, that tracks with my energy very much.
It does, as you cackle. So what's the why did you start this?
Yeah, I had self-produced a little bit here and there in the last couple years and had managed to pay everybody $20 an hour without charging for tickets every single time. Yeah. Just on like individual people donating. But we were running into some sticky points with like nonprofit status and being able to like partner with like state schools and groups that were like non-religious affiliated and also nonprofit status and being queer led, specifically trans led, is, shall we say, sticky right now? Uh,
No, we shouldn't. We should say it's fucking insane.
yeah,
What's happening is what we should say.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So we're pivoting the part that's the nonprofit to doing more of like exploring what a like theater church, and I'm using church very loosely, um, could look like. Um, to less of a like not doing Bible stories on stage or anything, but like a weekly space to use theater to process sorrow and work on grieving process and healing and trauma and learning co-regulation skills for your nervous system, but using theater. Because that is something that there are grants that we qualify for. Um,
and is essential right now,
yeah.
specifically for the group you're servicing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we have that kind of running on a separate track. Um, on like a very like shoestring budget kind of situation, but I still wanted to do like full productions. Because I've been making a list of like I want to play an Ace Mercutio because I want to figure like I want to try it, I want to play Arthur and
Besides Romeo, who and Mercutio, besides that play, what are some other what is
Aufidius from Coriolanus is fascinating to me. Also, Coriolanus, as a trans person would be interesting just because of his hesitance around showing his scars, I think is fascinating. And could have some, and also the way he interacts with his wife, I'm like, that could read as an ace aloe relationship that's maybe not working so well. um Macbeth as a trans person, I think could be fascinating, especially if you have also Macduff as a trans person and looking at two different approaches to masculinity. And I think that could be fascinating.
sure?
Um, what else is on my list? I want to do Timon of Athens because I saw it on Stratford Festival's platform and I'm very curious. Um, Specifically looking at it as I read it less as a like, oh, people are terrible, which is what I'd been told about the play was like, oh, rich guy like gives all his stuff away and then his friends all leave him hanging and he hates everybody and dies. But like watching it, they Stratford like did a modern setting for it, which I think helped. Um And it could be very interesting. There's a couple characters in that have some ace resonances and like are also kind of wrapped up in like a cautionary tale against like being addicted to opulence and mistaking opulence for generosity and the difference. Um yeah, so I have a lot of questions around that one because I'm more new to that play, but I think it could be interesting. Um, I'm trying to think of which other ones. Oh, and then Much Ado, the one I usually talk about. Um, Much Ado with Benedict and Beatrice both being Arrow Ace. Because I mean,
Why?
I would rather hear my dog bark at a crow than a man swear he loves me. Like when I saw Much Ado for the first time, had not yet figured out that I was Arrow Ace. And I was 100% with particularly Beatrice. Um, until the second half of the play, and then I got so mad because I was picking up so much on the Ace and Arrow resonances, and it wouldn't be several years until I found Dr. Liza Blake's work on Much Ado and the Ace and Arrow resonances in those two characters. Um, but like 16 or 17 or however old I was when I first saw Much Ado, like high school aged me was like just like had the reaction of like this feels like a backtrack of all of the character work we've been establishing for Beatrice in the first half of this play. Um and then I found Dr. Blake who like was like, yeah, no, that could totally be they both read very strongly as having some Ace and Arrow resonances, especially if you use the folio version of the text, which I have not seen performed. I've seen 7 different productions of Much Ado at this point, and they've all used the Cordo ending, which is where Benedict, at the end when they like have the love letters, da da da, and they're Beatrice and Benedict are arguing about like, oh, I don't love you no more than reason, and then Benedict is like, peace, I will stop your mouth, and kisses Beatrice. So like that's how I've seen every version of Much Ado end. The folio version of the text has Leonardo say that line, interrupting Benedict and Beatrice protesting about like, wait, no, actually, no, no, no. He interrupts the two of them, telling Beatrice, peace, I will stop your mouth. And then the stage direction is Leonardo gives Beatrice to Benedict. So that's a little different.
It is. Interesting.
Yeah. And then also like, so there's some Shakespeare's that I want to tackle, and then obviously as a playwright also I'm like, I want to do the things that I write. And um especially because living in the sort of classics and fantasy genres is where I tend to land. Especially because there's so little representation for trans people and then especially for Ace and Arrow people. Um, I there's the trope of the non-human casting of like there's a couple of theaters that like I've for myself and for other trans and Ace and Arrow people that I've worked with where it's like we only get cast as non-humans. And it's like so being able to like write
What are you saying? Yeah.
yeah, it's like we need somebody who doesn't quite look human. Let's pull the trans person in like or the one that Ace and Arrow people get a lot, and this also it like shows up in character robots or aliens. Because and yeah,
Yeah.
it's or the villains. You see this a lot in a romantic codings, is a lot of Disney villains get coded as not being able to experience love. I think like Scar is one that comes up sometimes as being like in that aromantic. I know he also has like some parallels to Hamlet because it's Lion King, but like even character, like some of the other characters that get coded in sometimes are like Data from Next Generation or even Sherlock Holmes, where it's like they like either they cannot experience or they don't experience love because they're like, and it's like, but just because you're ace doesn't mean you don't have love. Like they love is a far more expansive term than just one
But
particular.
we have to continue the population. We have to reproduce to continue the population. We have to reproduce to continue the population. What other purpose do you have on the planet?
Right.
What function
I
can you serve
actually
us?
I like I forget where I heard it, but someone was like, um, you know, the phrase like it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah,
And it's like
it does.
ace and arrow people and like other part it's really hard to it's helpful like to be there not taking care of your own child and being there to support the parents around you. You know, to be able to be the one who's like, yeah, I can like help pick up the kid from school, or yeah, I can watch him while you're going and doing a thing, or I can go run the groceries for you, or like what have you. um but yeah, so like being able to write um just like canon, fully human. And I write in fantasy, so like they're not always, but I do tend to leave the characters pretty open. The one note that I get from some of my playwright friends when they read my stuff is like, can you please give us more casting information than the name, the pronouns, and like their personality? And I'm like, Shakespeare didn't have to.
No, I won't.
Like I'll tell you their relationship so you know that like okay, this one is like the parent of this one, so like don't cast them as the
Figure
same,
it
but like
out. Fucking figure it out.
but yeah, I'm excited to like do more because like I'm a huge fan of like Dropout TV, and they have one
Yes.
of the most like
Yes.
openly queer spaces I've ever seen in like entertainment. um and like obviously we're focused in two different sort of worlds because I'm focused more in like theater and fantasy and scripted, and they're more in like sketch comedy and TTRPGs. So great,
Yeah.
you know. Um and like still like as an Ace Arrow person, I'm like there's still room to be able to create a space for Ace and Arrow stories and Ace and Arrow artists because I haven't seen that
Yeah.
yet. Um So yeah, and then like everything coming back to the theme that I'm circling around with like everything is the you're loved, you're not alone. You're loved, you're not alone. And just continuing to like that's the driving force behind like all the stories that I'm putting out, why I'm specifically focusing on like trans and ace and aro stories and artists. Um and like every time that I've done, like I've produced stories that were focused on trans and ace and aro characters, like there were tons of people who were not trans or ace or aro who came up to me going like, I felt seen in that show, you know, because I'm not focusing on the identities and the coming out. I'm focusing on like, you know, we're doing an adventure about friendship or like
Mhm.
this other thing, and they just happen to be on these identities as part of it. It's recreating what that brave space can look like and being like, no, like there are these are possible, and theater being like one of my favorite tools for being able to rehearse and test different life situations.
Test.
um is fantastic because it's like cool, we can, you know, jump into a fantasy world where, you know, magic exists and you know everybody's, you know, whatever. But you know, okay, we can then look at, okay, what are some different expressions of love that you might not have experienced or been aware of that
Yeah.
might be super supportive for you?
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's being able to test and expand and show and help people like experience like, oh, okay, it's, you know, it doesn't have to be, you know, I don't have to, you know, completely hold my friends at arm's distance. It's okay to, you know, be physically affectionate with them if that's within both of our boundaries. And
Yeah.
that can be platonic love, and that's fine. And it's supportive for both of us and is what's helpful, you know.
Yeah. And the more personal, the more universal.
Yes.
Because at
Yeah.
baseline, everybody wants the same thing, regardless of your experience. It is you are loved, you're not alone. That's literally what you're like. That is an
Yep.
underlying need of every human being, regardless of where you are, where you came from, and what you want. Like everybody wants to feel like they're not alone and that they're loved, they're accepted for who they are. It's really fucking simple, and yet we make it so complicated. And it is
Right.
complex because there's a lot of different
Yeah.
ways to feel loved and feel accepted, and and everybody has different boundaries and different needs, but still, it's pretty
Yeah.
fucking universal. Okay, so where can we find information about your roguish goblin brand and doings?
Yeah. So I have all of the social medias linked on the website because I'm on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Blue Sky. So it's at beksroen.org, which sometimes the auto captions are weird. So BEKSROEN.org
Yes.
slash RGS
Okay.
is the website. Roguish Goblin Stories on Instagram,
Roguish.
Facebook, YouTube. I think I had to shorten it on Blue Sky because it was too many characters, so it might be Roguish Goblin Story on Blue Sky.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a little green goblin with a little blue book as the logo. So
You've done a lot in a year.
yeah, that might be why I'm tired.
Yeah, maybe you need
You
a
know,
break.
because it also, also helping with like family and stuff. And I will say, so like one of the things that I have started doing more and more since we set like those daily habits, they have continued to evolve.
Of course. Of course.
But one of the things that I remember we talked a lot about that has continued to like stick in my brain of the things that I'm continuing to work on is like that figuring out more ways to like positively integrate physically because that was one of the big like blocks
Oxytocin.
that we were working on.
Yeah.
Um, First off, I had at Ohio Shakes, I had a friend who taught me how to lift weights, so I'm now the strongest I have ever been with the most muscle I've ever had. I'm very proud of myself. Um, that's been
Feels good to
really
be it
fun.
feels good to be strong also. It just feels
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's been fun, and I've been dragging the family along with it, which has been so fun. But I have integrated two morning and evening habits that have been super, super helpful. I started doing yoga with my mom every night to help wind down,
Yep.
which has been huge.
Yeah.
And I also had a friend who taught me how to tap, EFT tapping.
Yep.
Um, and so I do that every morning, which has also been really, really helpful for anxiety management.
Great. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
mean,
noticing more instances where I'm like, oh, this
out.
is what it feels like to be fully present in my body. Great.
Yes. Yeah, outward, outward, outward.
Yeah.
Um yeah, the stuff that we talk, the habit stuff, it's like there's always a starting place, but then you've got to personalize it for what is going on in your world and what kind of
Mhm.
best, sorry, what you respond to best. And also it'll shift, sometimes day to day or like year to year of like what is best working for you. No, yeah, I say that you've done a lot in a year because even talking to you today is a different person than I spoke to like last year, January, right?
Mhm.
Um, you seem to be very there seems to be a lot of purpose and
Yeah.
confidence within that purpose and kind of like you obviously still have a lot of questions, but those questions seem to be enjoyment about them and you're excited to explore them versus like fear of the unknown because the unknown is still
Mhm.
based in some kind of like drive that you have or like there's a um I don't know, not necessarily a goal, but it feels like you feel you're going in the right direction.
Yes. Yeah. And like I am still like the thing that I'm working on right now is like getting over the or working through rather get over emotions, but like working through the like taking full ownership of like, yeah, I am running a business. Like that is still very new. um
Yeah.
and like is still
Yep.
bringing up a little bit of anxiety, but I'm able to name the anxieties much quicker and being able to like counter them and like journal them out and work through them of like I'm still drafting. I'm This is gonna evolve. Like I know where I'm heading, even if I
Yeah.
don't know what it's necessarily gonna look like,
Yeah.
you know, and just letting go of some of the just trying to brute force it and just being like, no, this is the draft that I'm in right now, and then tomorrow is a new draft, and tomorrow is a new draft, and this is what we build to over time.
Congratulations. I'm very proud of you.
Thanks.
It's good work.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's important.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, just talking with some of the students around here of being like, oh my gosh, I told them because I got to go usher a show at my school recently, which was so fun. Um, but getting to talk with the students and being like, I am making sure that I can pay you, and then I'm gonna be putting out audition calls, and they're like, oh my gosh, that'd be so fun, and like
Yeah.
just getting to support, especially artists who are not in major cities who like don't have a lot of access to paying work is like super freaking cool.
Look what you're doing, man. Look at everything you're
Yeah.
doing. It's a lot, and it's no small feat.
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
you know
And that
that.
is I'm definitely this is definitely training my patience muscles. There are days when I'm certainly not happy about
That's a
that.
whole different conversation. That's a whole different podcast episode of what the fuck does it take to run something?
Oh
Um,
gosh.
it's so it's oh my God. Yeah. Well, it was really great to catch up with you. I'm really happy to hear
Yeah.
everything that you're doing and hear that it's going so well. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Obviously, I
was
stay
so good to talk
updated.
to you.
I follow your emails and stuff, but it was nice to hear it from your mouth. I'm happy you're happy. Um, thank you for hopping on and talking to me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It was good to catch up.
But of course. All right, dude. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, so good to talk to you.
You too, man. Be well.
Bye.
I've seen suns when the heat dries up.